If you guys live in the same world that I do, we are busier than ever. We're bombarded with more stuff than ever before. And it's difficult because customers have higher expectations. There's more emails coming in. There's more communication. And it can be really, really difficult. And so we just live in a noisy, distracted culture. So what we're going to talk about today are just like some practical ways to rise above that noise and kind of separate yourself, both in regards to productivity and goal setting, but then also into marketing. With everything I do, I always try to hit marketing because I think that there's so much opportunity that we have in a noisy culture to raise above that and showcase the value that we bring. Does that sound fair? Okay. Now, this is going to be really informal, so if there's any questions, feel free to raise a hand, and we'll just dialogue back and forth. If it's going to be a super long answer, we'll put it on pause, and we'll talk about it at the end, but feel free to raise a hand, and we'll get going here. So today's roadmap is going to be this. We're going to talk about three things. Number one is going to be the reality that we all live in, and what I call that is the whirlwind. I guess I should back up. People that are smarter than me call that the whirlwind. I agree with those people. The whirlwind is what we live in just every single day. We all know what it's like, and we'll spend some time talking about that. Next is going to be what the answer to the whirlwind is, and it's a combination of focus, goal setting, and time blocking. Those are all things that we know are important, and it's very difficult to do, even though we know that those things are important. And then lastly, we're going to look at the opportunity. And the opportunity, I'm going to argue to you guys, is going to be original video content. And it might seem like a weird mix of things, but I think that, video content marketing is something that especially when you're in the design or the remodel world, there is so much white space that no one's occupying where you can set yourself and your company up to be an expert and showcase the unique value that you bring to the table. But stuff like this is important to do, but it's not urgent. And so unless you can tackle the whirlwind, do some focused goal setting and time blocking, you're never going to get to things like this that can grow your business. Is that fair? So the whirlwind. I think all of us, maybe your day doesn't look or feel like this, but I think that for me, if I'm honest, a lot of my day does. Where you're going from thing to thing to thing. There's always emails coming in. There's calendar invites. There's notifications. It's just the day-to-day stuff it takes to run your business. And that's called the whirlwind. In a second, we're going to talk about a book that's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, and they've coined this term, the whirlwind. And as I've been diving really deep into productivity, there are a lot of resources out there that will tell you that the whirlwind is bad. You have to separate yourself from the whirlwind and compartmentalize all your time. If you guys have done much on time blocking, you can feel guilty because it's impossible to follow a time block for 8 hours a day every day. It's not realistic. So, my take on the whirlwind is that it's not evil, it's just reality. Anyone that's in business deals with the whirlwind, and it's always there. It's always consuming. If your calendar's full of appointments, and all of a sudden a lunch on Wednesday gets canceled, it's not for that hour instead you have nothing to do, so you just kick your feet up and now have an hour, right? There's always something in the whirlwind that's going to steal that time. It's all consuming, and it's not evil. It's just reality. But the whirlwind is the day-to-day stuff that you need to do to keep your doors open, to stay in business. And that's not bad. There's a necessary whirlwind. What I always try to talk about, and what we'll be diving into today, is trying to keep an 80-20 ratio. So the whirlwind is all that urgent stuff that it takes to run your business every day. If you can keep an 80-20 ratio where just 20% of your time is spent focused and time blocked on productive growth activities that don't happen on accident, I think that if just 20%, you'll move the needle in your company and you'll see ridiculous growth, but you don't have to feel like every single second of your day has to be time blocked. It's just not realistic. But the thing with the whirlwind is, it never stops. It always consumes. It's always there no matter what. And this is a saying from this book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And what they say is that if we ignore the whirlwind, if we're trying to be so productive, we're trying to manage ourselves into oblivion, if we ignore the whirlwind, we'll die today. Because, this is the stuff you have to do. If you don't reply to your emails, you're going to go out of business, right? If you don't answer your phone, you're not going to have a job. So if you ignore the whirlwind, you die today. But if you never step out of the whirlwind, your company will die tomorrow. Because, so often we can get to the end of our days and be like, what did I even do with my day? Was I even productive? I'm sure we probably did some stuff, but when all of it is sucked into the whirlwind, if you do that for 20 years, I don't think our businesses are going to grow, and I don't think we're going to have a productive life. So anyway, that's kind of the base context of the reality that all of us are in as the whirlwind. And the problem that we have is really not the whirlwind. I'm going to argue that the problem is distraction. And this is just tough with technology and innovation and social media and everything, is that like we distract ourselves into nothingness, and our customers do too, and very often team members do as well. But stereotypically, like, we're enslaved by our devices and the urgency that they create. Like, every single one of us here, the second our phone goes off, we get a dopamine hit, and we love picking up that phone and checking that notification. And regardless of the true urgency of that notification, in our minds, everything's a 10. Right? I mean, how many of us, when someone emails us or texts us, we're having dinner with our family, but the phone goes off, and the second it goes off, like, you have to go reply to it. That's the situation that we live in. And that distractedness is tough because distraction is the enemy of focused work. As we get into it today, focused work is like the key to productivity. But the whirlwind robs our time to grow our businesses. I think, like, for all of us, we probably have ideas that we know could grow our business that we've never done anything with because we don't have time. Right? You get ideas. I could do this. What if we did this marketing effort? What if we hired this salesperson? And nothing ever happens with it because the whirlwind just robs your time. Again, I'm not saying that's necessarily evil, but we have to be really careful of it, and we have to find time to separate from the whirlwind to invest in, like, the important tasks that are not urgent, but the important tasks that'll move the needle in our business. And then lastly is just because, generally speaking, we are so distracted, we have no sense of focus to our work. Very often it's like when you turn everything up to 10, is anything even loud anymore? Like, when everything's that volume, like, and we get so bombarded with stimulation, we just drop into nothingness. And there's always things that we can make the excuse are keeping us busy, but, like, are they really productive? It's I don't know if you guys fight this, but, like, it's hard when the whirlwind is pulling at you to be productive with it because everything is turned up to 10. There's no sense of priority and focus. The whirlwind is the reality. The problem is distraction. But what we're going to start to talk about is that the answer for us to be productive and to start taking control of our business, taking control of our marketing, and utilizing technology to work for us is going to be focus. And we all know this. I have a funny story of a guy that I had lunch with, like, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he's a friend of mine. He's about 30 years older than me. And his job for years was to manage billions of investor dollars. And there was so much money that he was managing, he would go and travel to meet with CEOs of big companies like Starbucks or Best Buy and, like, these huge companies to interview the CEO and to find out, did their leadership style seem to be something that would grow the company, that was a smart investment, or was it not a good leadership style that they didn't want to invest their money in it? So we're talking, and at this point, like, I got all these ideas. I'm going to change the world of fireplaces, and I have all this stuff I'm trying to do, and I was just burning myself out because I had no sense of focus or priority. I was trying to do everything at once. And I'm talking to this guy, and I just asked him, like, what makes a good CEO? And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, a good CEO, a good leader, is never the smartest person in the room. A good CEO is the one who has laser-like focus on the goal at hand and can continually shepherd everybody else towards it. It's the only thing that makes a good CEO is laser-like focus. And that blew my mind that he said that. And for me, that changed, 3-4 years ago when I had this lunch of, like, I started doing less. And I stopped trying to do everything, and I started choosing 1, maybe 2 goals to do at a time and just be, like, laser-like focused on those goals. So we're gonna get into this and talk about it. To be focused is not normal. To be focused and productive takes discipline, which is a dirty word in our culture. But the reality is, like, normal people aren't disciplined. We don't want to be normal people. Normal people are broke. 70% of Americans live month to month regardless of what their income is. Like, we do not want to be a normal person. We want to be somebody that rises above, that can take control and has some self-discipline and some focus, because it's just crazy the growth that we'll see personally and then also in our business. How does that sound? Does it sound in line? Okay, let me know if there's some pushback. But lastly is that, when we're focused and intentional people own technology, it doesn't own them. And technology, I'm here to talk about it, and I'm a huge technology fan, but, like, it is so easy for it to own us. It's so easy to just be distracted and constantly like unfocused and not productive. And to take that step of intentionality and focus just transforms the way that you use technology to scale and grow your business like it never would if you didn't have focus and intentionality and direction. So the first thing that we'll talk about with this is all kind of like theory, right? I mean, like the whirlwind, we're talking about that. We're talking about these problems and some solutions. But for me and the sales teams that I lead in Portland and Seattle, this is what we have put in place to start helping productivity. And like the results have been nuts. And it comes from a book that's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. I would beg and plead with you guys to buy this book. If any of you are familiar with Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, yeah? Okay, so his son was one of the authors of this book. And we're only going to talk about steps 1 and 2 today, but this has been so crazy just for me and my team's productivity. And what we do is this, is it sounds really simple, but we set wildly important goals and we act on lead measures, not lag measures. And we'll kind of get into what that is. But there's some crazy statistics out there that say if you set a goal for a team member or an employee, and even if you don't tie their compensation to it, if you just set a goal for them, their productivity increases 14%, even with no comp tied to it. Just that clarity and focus does something to us as people. So I would encourage you guys as we're talking today to be thinking about goals both for yourself or if you have team members or people that you lead for those folks as well, because that clarity and having a mark to attain to, it makes a huge difference. So Zig Ziglar has a famous quote where he says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. It's the truth, you know? And we really want to be focused people. And what that means is that the goals that we should be setting, we call them WIGs in our company, wildly important goals. If it's not a wildly important goal, we don't set it. Because, you know, why cloud yourself with that extra noise? Unless it's like wildly critically important, don't set it. But getting really practical, this is the criteria that I've used with my team to help grow us. And we set no more than 3 goals ever. And even right now, we have 2 goals for the entire year. We never set more than 3. Because, again, more than 3, you start to lose focus. Our brains like things really simple. And so you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 goals is all that we want. And in order for us to define a wildly important goal, the second criteria is it has to be a goal that would never happen on its own. So if with our team, I mean, a lot of us are probably in this boat where like, you know, business has been booming, the construction market is really, really good. So like if I was going to say I want to grow sales by 10% this year, it's not a wildly important goal. Because I think that just by us keeping the doors open, we're going to grow by 10% this year. It's going to happen on its own. So it's not a wildly important goal. You know, a wildly important goal would be something that if you did things exactly the same way as right now, you would never attain this goal. So it takes some thought. It's worth engaging the people that you're with, or, you know, if you're a solopreneur in this business, like, you know, spend some time thinking about this. But for us, you know, what we did is we actually have a margin goal, because we're like, you know what? We're going to try to increase our margin and our customer service at the same time, and that takes intentionality. You know, if you want to grow that stuff, you can't just do it on accident. So, you know, experiment with different things, 1 to 3 at the most, and goals that would never happen on their own. Does that sound good? I mean, nothing's too crazy here, but this is where it got really interesting for me, is to act, once you have your wildly important goals, your WIGs, to act on lead measures and not lag measures. Has anybody heard of those terms before? Lead versus lag? Okay.
Started reading the book, okay? I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it awesome?
It is good.
Yeah. So the way that I would think about this is like, until I read this book, I had always acted on lag measures. And what they are is what they sound like. Lag measures lag behind. So say that you have a revenue goal for October, you know, whatever it is, you know, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, you know, whatever your revenue goal is. You know, by the time October finishes and you find out what your revenue goal is, it's too late to do anything about it. It lags behind. Does that make sense? And so many of the measures that we use are lag measures. By the time we find out if we did it, it's done, you know? So what can you do about it? So, and these are important measures. We need them. Like, we all need lag measures of like, this is where I want to grow to, this is the margin level that I want, you know, whatever your goals are. But what we need to act on is lead measures. And so a lead measure are going to be things you can do in the moment that will move the needle with your wildly important goal. So say it's a revenue goal that you have, whatever, $50,000 in a month, or whatever the dollar amount is. Again, by the time the month's over, it's too late to do anything about it. But I would guess, if you think about it, there are probably 1 to 2 behaviors that are both controllable and predictable, that if you do these behaviors, you will trust that you'll meet your goal. And that's a lead measure. That's something that it blew my mind when we started acting on this, and the results have been nuts, like absolutely nuts. For us, what we looked at is, so with my sales team, if they hit a certain sales number, then they get an accelerated commission. So everybody's trying to hit this sales number to get that commission. And so as a team, when we sat down to come up with our wildly important goals, they looked at this period of time, and in that period of time, there's only 5 times that someone had made it into that accelerated commission. And the team goes, okay, our goal is going to be, we want 10 times. So like they want to double the amount of months that they're in this accelerated commission. Like that doesn't happen on its own. That takes like some intentionality and thought. So what we did is we started to think about lead measures. We started to look at, if you were going to say, I'm going to quote more customers. Well, that's predictable. If you quoted more customers, you'd probably move that number, but it's not controllable because you can't control how many customers you talk to, right? So it doesn't pass the criteria for a lead measure because a lead measure has to be controllable and predictable. So for us, as we started to think about this, what we thought about is, okay, we want to move the needle with their sales. We want to increase the months that they're in that better commission rate. So we thought about 2 things. We said, we do in-home appointments. So we'll go out to a client's house, we'll go meet with the contractor, and we'll talk through the job and everything else. And we have a process that we, at the time, we kind of ran it, where we would try to have just an order of operation where you'd first find out the scope of the job. You would listen, then you'd provide a solution. After that, you'd write up a quote, and after that, you'd ask for the sale or ask for next steps. And at the time, we weren't tracking anything. But we said, you know what? We bet if we executed this process 80% of the time, I think that would move our sales number. So that was our first lead measure, is 80% of the time at our in-home appointments, are we going to run the play? Nothing profound, but we actually started tracking it. And we found out 2 things. We found out, number 1, that we sucked at in-home appointments. I was like, oh yeah, 80%? No way. It'll be simple. No, we found out we sucked at in-home appointments. But as we started to analyze it, and we said, we're going to let the numbers take care of themselves. We're focusing on this week. 80% of my calls, can I just run the playbook? I'm not even saying we have to make the sale. I'm just going to say we're going to run the playbook. And I'm telling you, we are flying past getting double the amount of people into that accelerated commission just with focus on that behavior. Another lead measure that we have, it has to do with the accuracy of our quotes. So when you quote a job, I'm in the fireplace business. So, maybe we're running 20 feet of gas line, but that the installers get out there and it's 50 feet of gas line, right? So there's extra cost that goes into that job. So we just said, okay, if we can quote jobs perfectly 80% of the time, we think that's going to move the needle with this. And again, it's controllable. We can control if we quote the jobs accurately, and it's predictable, right? Hey, if we quoted these accurately, we think it would move the needle. And I don't know if it sounds this way to you, but as I'm saying it, it sounds so stupidly simple. But I'm telling you, it has rocked our world. It has transformed the way that we run our business, and it's made our customers happier. It's made our salespeople more money, and it's been crazy. So I would just encourage you guys to think through, what could the lead measures be? Again, no more than 2. Don't, but what you're doing is you're making a strategic bet and saying, if I do nothing but these 2 things, we are trusting that the results will take care of themselves. And we all know things like that in our business. And I'm telling you guys that focus is crazy. Any questions on that? I know that I'm going fast. Yeah.
So your goals that you're setting are kind of longer term. Are you updating those lead measures weekly, monthly?
Yep. We do it weekly. Actually, my next slide is, this is what our scoreboard looks like. It might look scary, but once you understand how to look at it oh yeah. So every person on my sales team has a different character that they are, and we're all big basketball fans. So we have the Larry O'Brien Trophy, that gets passed from winner to winner, and we literally have a WWE heavyweight title belt that goes to the winner every month. The results are just as ridiculous as you might think that they would be. But I just use a Google Drive. And so like on a weekly basis, we update it. We have regular meetings to talk about this stuff too. And essentially the way that it works is if there's more blue than red, we're winning. If there's more red than blue, we're losing. And you don't have to make it this complicated. What we've got is wildly important goal number 1, lead measure 1, lead measure 2. Wildly important goal number 2, lead measure 1, lead measure 2. So it might look complicated, but it's really not. So yeah, good question about that. I would say weekly. Weekly is really good. So anyway, for us, it's changed the way that we run our business, and it's made us way more focused. And again, going back to that 80-20 rule, we're not asking that we time block every second of every day, but what we ask for our team as we're starting to focus on goals is we ask that our team members time block 20% of their day. So an 8-hour day, that means you're time blocking roughly an hour and a half. And that can seem intimidating, and maybe you start with just half of that, but I would argue we could find 45 minutes in the morning, and we could probably find 45 minutes at the end of the day that we're probably not as productive as we could be. Could you guys think hour and a half, is that okay? Yeah? So we do that, 20%. The whirlwind's going to be there. We need the whirlwind in order to keep our doors open, so we're only asking that 20% of the day is dedicated to this. But whenever we time block, we say no outside technology is allowed. Now, it doesn't mean no technology is allowed, but no outside technology. So say that we're going to be, using a CRM system to call back the customers that we have, or we're going to update a bunch of quotes for customers, or I'm going to talk about video content in a second. Maybe, my 45-minute time block is that I'm going to work on making a new video. It's totally cool to use technology, but just only use the technology that's pertaining to your task. And for me, honestly, my cell phone, unless I'm using it, my cell phone's turned off and in a drawer when I'm doing this stuff. And we found that 45-minute time blocks, that's the last one here, is a 45-minute max. So even though you're only time blocking an hour and a half of your day, don't do any more than 45 minutes. Our brains we need a break after being focused for that long. But we found doing this as a time machine. And I think that all of us have found that before. Like if you've ever had a deadline that yeah, you're totally right. If we've ever had like a deadline that we're coming up on and we've been kind of putting it off and all of a sudden we're 2 hours away from the deadline, like it's crazy how hard we can work and how focused we can be when the deadline's coming up. And so what we've found is that 45-minute time blocks are a time machine. And we can take a lot of tasks that would string out for days and days and days, and if we could just say 45 minutes, no cell phone, I'm starting the stopwatch and I'm going. It's crazy how much stuff you get done. Do any of you guys do that or have experienced time blocking? Yeah, has it been helpful?
Definitely. The phone's going to be on.
Yeah, yep.
And the email off.
Yep, yeah, notifications turned off, yep.
I had heard 50 minutes before, so I was doing 50 minutes and I set my timer on my phone, and at 50 minutes I was going,
yeah.
I'm going to keep working on this. It was hard to actually stop.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's a time machine. So I would argue, that we all fight distraction. We all fight the whirlwind. And I know that we're going fast. And you can send me an email afterwards, and I can send you slides or give you resources. But these are just some really practical things that, in a noisy and distracted world, have helped us rise above that, make our customers happier, and create just a better life for the team members that work with us. And that's what we're after. Is we want a better life for our customers and a better life for us. Focused productivity does that. Any questions about that? I know that this isn't super heavy into tech yet, but we'll get there. But it's been I feel like anytime we're going to talk about technology, we have to hit focus and intentionality first. So the heart of what we're going to talk about today is this: original video content. And I would argue that in the industry that we're in and with the value that you guys bring to the table, there is so much white space that no one is going after, that some intentional thought and focus that's dedicated to original video content will separate your companies and your personal brands from all the noise that's out there and bring ridiculous value to your clients. So we've been doing this for maybe 2.5 years or so. And it's been awesome. Like, I don't know how many YouTube videos we have. We have a bunch of them, and we advertise them on Facebook and we, targeted demographics and all that. But what we found to be really cool is, especially in my industry, like I sell fireplaces. People buy a fireplace like once every 20 years. They don't buy it, often enough to be good at it, right? It's not like buying a car or, a dishwasher that they've got a frame of reference for. And so for us, we've found that the more educational videos we can make, maybe there's a slight sales end to it, but it's really just education of like, this is what you need to be thinking about. Here's 5 mistakes people make when they're buying a fireplace, right? Can I put a TV above a fireplace? Like questions like this start to educate consumers into your company's image. And they actually start to want your company before they've even contacted you. And it makes it when they talk to other people that kind of like poo-poo the information that you're giving, or they act like it doesn't matter. Like in my industry, there's a lot of people that don't like customers doing research, so they'll kind of like, they'll say, oh, it's on the internet, you can't believe it. I don't know if you guys find any of that. But it actually gives your company some credibility as like the advocate for consumers. Rather than holding the keys of knowledge, you're like open-handed saying, hey, whether you buy from me or not, here's the information. It is crazy how that works. Do any of you guys do video content marketing?
Yeah, we do a thing called School of Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Education on that stuff.
Yeah. Has it been good?
We just started doing it.
So yeah. It's one of those things too, like it's important, but not urgent. So like if you're going to make time to do it, there's always things that are pulling at your attention. It's like it takes ridiculous time blocking. But what I want to show you is a couple things. Here's an example of what this can look like. So literally, I filmed this video this morning. Okay, so this is very pretentious. I'm showing you my video while I'm here. But it's strictly for knowledge, okay?
Hey, this is Tim Reed with Fireside Home Solutions, and today we are going to be talking about what it takes to win in the age of noise and distraction. Now, the first thing we'll do is talk about the reality. And the reality is that every single one of us fights a whirlwind. It's something that pulls us in, emails, meetings, there's always calendar invites and things that suck us in so that we lose time for productive and intentional thought. The next thing we'll discuss is steps 1 and 2 of the 4 disciplines of execution. This book is incredible, and disciplines 1 and 2 are going to set you on the path for intentional, focused working and goal setting. Last, we'll talk about original video content marketing. I'm convinced that this is the lowest cost, highest return marketing you can do for your company, where you're going to engage consumers and educate them in your image. By the end of today, I hope you understand 3 things. Number 1, the whirlwind is not evil. You just have to manage it. Try to keep that 80-20 ratio with your time of whirlwind versus important focused tasks. Number 2 is, I hope that you can learn to set wildly important goals and act on lead measures, not lag measures, in line with the 4 disciplines of execution. And then lastly, number 3, I want you to be confident to make original videos that engage your audience and draw awareness to the value that you bring.
Okay, so like simple, right? I mean, it's like a minute and a half long. But that was just like talking about today. 2 minutes. Hey, what are we doing? Well, we're going to talk about the reality, which is the whirlwind. And the whirlwind is this, this, and this. And then we're going to talk about the solution, which is, goal setting and focus. And then we'll talk about, we all have things like that in our business that we could do. Like, you guys are experts. Like, you have so much knowledge that can be taken for granted because we're not, we're experts. We think, well, yeah, everybody knows this. But the reality is everybody doesn't. Like, they don't know how to design a house. They don't know about the specialty products that you guys deal with and the services you guys deal with. And so, we always talk about how we all fight the curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge is that because we're experts, we operate at a 9 or a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, which is good. We should, we should operate that way. And very often when we try to simplify it or dumb it down for customers, we can maybe get that to like a 6 or a 7. But the problem is customers buy at a 1 or a 2. And that's not me that came up with that. It's Lee Lefevre. It's called the curse of knowledge. But the companies that can speak at a 1 or a 2 are the companies that will engage and win customers. So videos like this, even over like really simple stuff, it moves the needle because your customers aren't experts the way that you guys are. How's that sound? Sound good? Okay. You guys think maybe you guys could do some video content marketing? Okay.
Now that's the honesty.
Yeah. Okay, here's what you need. It's expensive and it's complicated, I know. A notepad, a smartphone, a social media account. Do all of us have those things? Raise your hand if you don't have those things. Okay, so none of us have any excuse to not start to do this, right? That's all it takes. I mean, literally, I shot that on my iPhone. It's nothing crazy. Optional accessories. Do not think you have to have this. A tripod. I got mine on Amazon for $20. It's sitting right there, right? A microphone. I got this on Amazon for $15. I mean, it's not a big investment, and honestly, you don't necessarily need it. You can start out with just the microphone on your phone. It's really, really simple. And where I talk about white space, like in this market, I don't see people doing this. But like, what if you were the company to step up and become the designer, right? Or, you know, like what we're trying to do is we're trying to do this with fireplaces. We're trying to become like the fireplace person that actually is open-handed with information and doesn't, you know, hold it all in, but is saying, hey, just so you know, like, here's what's important to have in mind before you're making your buying decision, right? Now, I want to show you this because this is a basic framework on what you need to execute. So, you know, whenever I'm going to make a video, my goal is I try to make, you know, 2 to 3 videos a week if possible. And usually in a 45-minute time block, I can make 1, maybe 2. It really doesn't take that much time. But, you know, step 1 is just make a basic framework. So say you're going to do a video on, the one that we always talk about is like 5 mistakes people make, because people that's such like clickbait, you know, 5 mistakes people make before buying a fireplace, 5 mistakes people make when they're designing their home, right? These are, and you're an expert, you can totally think of 5 things to talk about. But you just make a basic framework. So like just on a notepad, just script it out. Okay, the shot 1, I'll talk about this. Shot 2, I'll talk about this. And then just point and shoot on a smartphone. Nothing too crazy. You know, you can do selfie style. That works as well. Or you can do a tripod. And then edit it. If any of you guys have iPhones, I just use iMovie. It's a free app that's on the phone. It's not the best, but like it totally works. Or if you upload it to YouTube, YouTube's got a great creator, which you can edit everything just in YouTube straight up. And then lastly, you publish and promote it. And you know, like I said, for us, you know, we promote this stuff on Instagram, on Facebook, on Houzz. And it makes a difference. And like, this is kind of crazy, but the other day, we had a lady, she walked into Fireside. This is like, I don't know, maybe a week and a half ago. And I'd just gotten back from a week in Seattle, and I hadn't been on the floor in a long time. So I walked up, and I said, hey, how are you doing today? She goes, I'm great, Tim. How are you? And I was like, I'm good. Am I in trouble? And she goes, no, but I've seen all your videos, and I want to get a fireplace from you. So like, literally, she knew the budget. She knew what she wanted. She was in there for 6 minutes, and then we booked an in-home appointment. She goes, how soon can you guys install it? Like, it was crazy. And you know, the stuff like this it takes a small time investment, but it makes the qualification of the customer so much better because, again, they're educated in your image. They know what they want. They know what's important. And just companies aren't doing it. You don't see companies doing this. I want to show you this, too. So, you know, I had a little time on my hands this morning. And so when I made the video for, you know, the presentation today, I made a video of me making the video of the presentation today, okay? So this is a behind-the-scenes look at literally how to make a video. So there's no excuses. I can send this to you. Like, there's no excuses to do this.
You can put it on our website.
Yeah. Can you guys all hear okay? Is the volume all right back there? Okay.
Tim the Fire Guy, and today I'm going to show you how to make some original content videos that are simple to do and easy to publish. Step 1 is to create a basic framework on paper, then film it. It looks like this. Hey, this is Tim Reed with Fireside Home Solutions, and today we are going to be talking about what it takes to win in the age of noise and distraction. Here's what this looks like behind the scenes. There's nothing crazy about it. It's just a tripod and a camera, and it might take a couple tries to get it, but you know, after a little bit, you'll get the hang of it. And you know what? It's okay to mess up. Everybody does. Check this out. Now, the first thing it will do, like I said, everybody messes up. But look how it turns out when you get it right. Now, the first thing we'll do is talk about the reality. And the reality is that every single one of us fights a whirlwind. It's something that pulls us in, emails, meetings. There's always calendar invites and things that suck us in so that we lose time for productive and intentional thought. After this, we're going to edit down the clips. It's pretty simple, whether you're in iMovie or in YouTube Creator. It's all drag and drop stuff. Next, we have text with subtitles to give it some polish. After this, you upload it to YouTube. You can do this on your computer or on your smartphone. It's really simple. Just add a title, description, whatever else you'd like. Lastly, make sure to review it just to check it out and see if the transitions are right, if it's just the way you want it to be. After that, start promoting it. Well, I hope that this has been good for you to see. Making a video is really simple, and it's awesome just to get your personality out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can mess up. It just takes some humility and a lot of coffee.
Okay, any questions on, like, I mean, it's so simple. Like, it doesn't take much. It does take humility.
How much coffee?
How much coffee? Okay, I'm lame. I switched to decaf 6 months ago, so it took like a cup of decaf. Okay, so if you guys have like a half cup of regular coffee, you're good to go. Okay, any questions on that?
So you shoot separate scenes, so you like block that out?
Yep. Yep. And honestly, like, I mess up all the time. It might seem like I'm polished, but like I'm coughing, I'm saying and like you know. So if you and some of that's okay. Like, it's okay to have some humanity in the videos. But I'm telling you guys, like, it makes a difference, and it doesn't take that much of an investment. It just takes some intentional goals and focus, right? So, you know, maybe your wildly important goal is I'm going to make 50 videos this year, right? So what would be lead measures you could control and use as predictable that would help you accomplish that goal? You know, the wildly important goals don't have to be money related, but it's important things that would not happen if you didn't try.
So do you just post those on social media, or do you also have a place on your website where you put new content?
We do both. So right now we're in the middle of a website facelift. So our video section is down for a couple months, but we generally do both. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for talking to customers about bad video content? Because I would love it if my clients never watched HGTV or another online video ever again.
Yep.
Do you get people who watch bad fireplace videos and you have to talk about why you're doing that?
Not bad fireplace videos, but that's a good question because Yeah, I mean, HGTV all the time is doing stuff with fireplaces that would burn down a house. Like, they're putting wood way too close to the fireplace, and, you know, they're putting candles in it, but if a future homeowner ever moved in and burned a fire, that house is going up in flames. All the time on HGTV. I would rather have that, and we the way that we talk about it in our sales process is there's a section of our sales process that's called unselling, which is, you know, it doesn't mean you say, oh, that's wrong, you can't do that, but it does mean with grace and with tact, you unsell them. You cannot unsell someone unless you've won their trust. So you absolutely have to win trust before you can unsell. And for us, I would rather have customers that want a fireplace but have bad information about it coming in to talk to me than people that don't know if they want a fireplace and I have to convince them. So yeah, we deal with it, and, you know, it could be difficult, but I think at the end of the day, at least for us, you know, HGTV's helped us more than it's hurt us, just because it's brought awareness to the fact that, like, people want to work on their homes and they want to improve their lives. I don't know if that's a good answer or not. Yeah? Yeah?
Do you know an Android editor?
In Android, I would just do it on YouTube. The YouTube app has a YouTube creator, and that's what I would use. Yeah. Yeah, good question. So yeah, I would challenge you guys today. Think about a content piece that would be really useful for your people to have, and maybe it's one about, you know, hey, 5 mistakes people make from watching too much HGTV. You know, I mean, honestly, like, you could do something like that, you know, and address it with tact and with grace, but, like, say, hey, a lot of people like to do this, but it's actually not possible, and this is going to be what's better instead for your budget or for code or whatever. Yeah.
About calling out a corporation like that, you know, online, because you're basically kind of defaming their credibility. So it would just be, you'd have to just be able to phrase that in a way, and despite what you might have seen on, you know, on TV.
Yeah.
You know, this is the right way to do it. Because I think if you're sitting there, I mean, I wouldn't want somebody saying, well, that person just said this is totally wrong, because maybe in that area that is acceptable. Some of those shows are filmed in Canada. They don't have the same codes that we have here, and so we have to kind of point that out to people of where this is filmed, where this is located. They may not have the same restrictions we do. We have to teach you and show you what is acceptable for our area. You know, and as cool as that was, hey, you know, that doesn't work for our area.
Yep.
And I think that's probably a better way of phrasing it, because if you kind of go around blasting HGTV as much as we like to do it in person, if you're putting it on the internet, you're putting yourself in danger, in my
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would think about it is like, I've heard this as like an example of how to have a good marriage. But you know, the example is like if you've got a big feather pillow, like a big pillow that's filled with feathers, and you rip it open and you like throw all those feathers out, you're never getting them back, right? And you have to think about that whenever you put something online. And so I think that, you have to be careful with that. I think that, again, grace and tact are the two key words that, like, I think that there's ways, even if the title is like 5 things, you know, to be careful of when you watch HGTV, I think there are ways that in that video you could actually feed compliments to HGTV. I think that there's ways to do that. You know, even if you summarize it saying, hey, you know what, all in all, HGTV has helped out so many people. It's difficult, though, when you're dealing in multiple countries with different building codes. Let's make sure you talk to an expert in your local building area. You know, I think there's things that you can do to give them some kudos, but also, you know, have a good title that gets people to click on it. Yeah.
Honestly, they really have built our business.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They've driven clients to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think HGTV is a huge win, even if there's some misinformation that goes with it. So for us, this is just a practical example. The last two were kind of silly, but for us, one thing that we fight is TVs above fireplaces. I don't know if you guys fight this in your design work, but fireplaces get hot. TVs don't like to get hot. It's difficult, right? And so we made a video that was about, things that people should know. Can you put a TV above a fireplace? And for us, this has been just a content piece that has been really, really good because you can send this to people. And again, it starts to educate them into your image because we sell fireplaces that are specifically engineered to still give super efficient heat into the room, but keep the wall totally cool to the touch so that a TV is okay. Now, they're more expensive. And sometimes people are like, well, why would I want to pay more money? And, we have to talk about, we either have to have the TV 3 feet above the fireplace or we need to get something that manages the heat on the wall. So this is what we put together to talk about that. And I'm using this as an example because I'm sure there's things in your guys' businesses that you can employ that are going to educate customers your way.
Where'd you get this sound from?
YouTube.
Hey, this is Tim, the
free
fire
sound.
guy, and today's question of the day is this. Can I put a TV above my fireplace? And the answer is yes, with an asterisk. Here's the thing. Fireplaces are hot. Duh. And TVs don't like to get too hot, otherwise they cook. So there's the dilemma. So if you have a fireplace that's putting heat into the room and you want to put a TV above it, there's 2 things you can do. The first thing is you can get a mantle to go above that fireplace, and that's going to block a lot of the heat that the fireplace is putting out to protect the TV. But the second thing you can do is that there are fireplaces specifically made to manage the heat on the wall, which means you still get a ton of efficient heat off the fireplace, but there's a cool zone created on the wall where a TV is going to go, which actually manages the temperature of the wall to make sure your TV doesn't fry. I like that option because if you have a nice clean fireplace like this, I don't want a mantle in there, it just ruins the whole design of it. It makes it to where my TV is too tall. So, if you really want to do it, go after a fireplace that's going to manage the heat on the wall so you can put your TV nice and close to the fireplace without anything to inhibit that look. Now, I hope that answers your question. We'll see you next time.
Right, so it's an educational video. So, it's amazing when a customer comes in and says, can I get a fireplace that manages the heat on the wall? All of a sudden we're like, yes, we don't have to fight and argue about, is it going to get too hot? It's awesome. It starts to educate the consumers into your own image. And I would just encourage you guys that there are content pieces you can make that will be valuable.
I noticed you talked about the possibilities, what you could do, but you didn't mention the name of the fireplace sets because you're trying to drive them into your business, right?
Well, so there's a lot of fireplace companies out there. There's some that offer this technology. Most of them don't. And even in the companies that do offer it, it can change model to model. So I felt like in a 2-minute video, it was kind of a can of worms. Yeah, because again, it's going back to I want to speak at a 1 or a 2. I don't want to be in that 6 or 7 range. Another thing that we talk about, Donald Miller says that every time you give a consumer a piece of information, you're handing them a bowling ball. And if we think about that, how many bowling balls can I carry? Like 1, 2, maybe 3, and after that, it starts to get pretty bad. So I'm trying to think in this video, what are the 2 bowling balls that I want to give my customer? Yes, you can put a fireplace above your TV, and there's 2 ways to do it: a mantle or a fireplace that manages the wall. So yeah, trying to speak at that 1 or a 2. Yeah. So I know that I've gone fast and that this has been long. I appreciate you guys being here a ton. I hope that there's been some value in this. But to summarize, this is what I want everyone to come away with. If you don't hear anything but these three things. Number one is that distraction is the enemy of productivity. If we want to grow our businesses, and like I said, I'm begging and pleading with you to start doing some video content because there's so much white space there, but that can never happen if we're living with constant distraction. Just can't. Next is that focus and intentionality, they're critical pieces to growing your business. And I would just encourage you guys to pick up that book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, and set those wildly important goals that would not happen on their own. And think about what would some lead measures be that are both controllable and predictable to drive that result. For us, I came on board at Fireside about 5 years ago now. And we are bigger than we were 5 years ago. And it's not because I'm super smart, I make a ton of mistakes, but we've just tried to employ focused intentionality to what we do. And then last is original video content is the quickest way to engage and motivate your customers. We get really engaged by quality video content. And I would just encourage you guys to do that, eliminate distraction. We want to go all in on focus and intentionality, and there's so much white space with original video content marketing. So thank you. That's all I have.